What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn. Gabe, what's up, my brother? How you doing?
What's happening, brother? Coming from the new and improved, beautiful East Memphis studios here in East Memphis, Memphis. You know how it goes. I'm doing well though, brother.
Home.
AKA my home. How's it going, brother?
Everything's good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. How did you enjoy week 0?
There was one part that stuck out more than
100%. But you didn't get Montana State. You didn't dive into that sicko stuff.
No,
21 unanswered points. They ran for 364 or some shit like that. Unbelievable.
Nope.
That was my sicko and me making me watch that game.
No,
beating New Mexico.
There's no amount of sicko in me that could watch that game. I mean, there could not be football for 3 years.
You're not a real college football sicko then, brother. I hate to break it to you.
I am, but give me quality stuff. I'm sorry, I can't do
That's That's quality, brother. 240 plus yard rushers. That's quality if I've ever heard it.
Can't stoop that low. I cannot stoop that low.
Oh, damn. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. You're missing out. You're the problem. I'm not the problem.
That's fine. So was that your weekend? Was watching Montana State?
I got to head down to Miramar Beach, sort of Destin, that type of place, and we were at a pool, and there's a bar right there, and there's like a restaurant attached to it at one of the resort we were staying at, or I don't even know if you call them a resort. It's like a neighborhood. We were in a rental home.
Yeah.
But it was funny. Like, it was a Florida State place, and watching those Florida State fans just wallow in their own misery, that I hate to say it, kind of made me laugh.
Yeah.
I know I'm rooting for my former coach to a certain extent, but damn, brother, like that was priceless to see that team overranked going into the season, lose one to Georgia freaking Tech.
Was it
King?
Oh, well, Kenny already flipped us, so I guess we can go there. I was going to ask if it was just you and Taylor and if there's anything else.
Oh, no, I had a couple buddies as well. It was like a couples trip. Couples trip. It's a good time, though.
Well, yeah. Kenny's moving us right along, so I guess we'll jump into it since we've alluded to it enough. Florida State, number 10 in the country, coming into the weekend, into week 0, lost to Georgia Tech, and it was not pretty. DJU did not look good. Offensive line did not look good for Florida State. Georgia Tech looked like the much more motivated team in this game, albeit the less talented team, and they were able to pull it out. Florida State just didn't give enough in this game, honestly. Right. I know everyone's seen the graphics from DJU, what he did in the first half. What was he, like 11 of 13 or 11 of 14 or something like that for 94, 95 yards, but his air yards per attempt was negative 0.1.
Yeah.
Which I think tells you a lot about the trust that Norvell and the staff have in him. Kind of surprising. Someone that's been around as much as DJU with stints at Clemson and Oregon State. And, he's had his ups and downs. I'm not going to be the one to sit here and act like DJU has never shown flashes of being an elite quarterback, because that's just simply not true. They might have been few and far between, but he's been really good at times. But and you can disagree with this, but I don't think you will. If that's what your game plan is, if that's what you're doing in week 0 against an inferior opponent, then they really don't have confidence in DJU. There's nothing to me in that game that says that they have confidence in him and his ability to get the ball to Florida State's receivers.
Yeah, so first I want to say shout out to Georgia Tech. Well-played game. They shortened it. They ran the hell out of the ball. Kicked Florida State's ass in the trenches. Brent Key had a good game plan. Used the new time, in the 2-minute warning, all that stuff to his advantage. Like you don't get the clock stopped, so you can't extend the game out. Throw a bunch of passes, try to be explosive. Brent Key understood that. Ran that clock as much as he humanly could. You go out of bounds, that thing keeps turning unless it's 2 minutes left in either half. So I thought that was well played by Georgia Tech. That's how they needed to win that game, and they played it perfectly up until like sort of the fumbled snap at the end. That was a little sketchy for a minute, but they ended up getting the field goal to go win. Now, when it comes to Florida State, I heard 3 things coming into this year. One was that their offensive line was going to be, upperclassman laden. Hell, I talked to Mike Norvell on my show about this. oh, we're going to be able to run the ball, control the clock a little bit more, control the game a little bit more. They got their asses kicked after that opening script. After that opening script, they ran the ball pretty well. Ended up getting that 2-point conversion on the swinging gate stuff that Norvell likes to do. But after that opening script, they got absolutely handled. And I think Georgia Tech made some adjustments, backed off the defensive backs, brought more people into the box, did a more sort of that run blitzing look, trying to, bother a lot of those offensive linemen and those running backs. And it worked. But that's one thing I heard, that offensive line, they're going to be ready to go. No, they weren't. Defensive line, what I've been hearing, Pete Thamel said it before the damn game, right? College football analyst for ESPN, their lead guy. Oh, this defensive line, best in the country. Patrick Payton, NFL draft prospect. Marvin Jones Jr. coming from Georgia, NFL draft prospect. They got whooped. Yeah. They were a yard and a half off the ball before, the damn running back ever took the ball or Haynes King started using his legs. They got absolutely killed. They didn't have a single sack, didn't get after the passer. Obviously, Georgia Tech didn't air it out very much and drop Haynes King back all that much, but no sacks for a defensive line that's supposed to be the best in the country. That's unacceptable. Then the third thing I heard was DJU. Oh, he's going to come into his own. When we talk about his development, him with Mike Norvell, a quarterback whisperer, a guy who has a high-powered offense. He'll finally be that explosive playmaker that we expect him to be because he's got the legs. He's got that deep ball that he can uncork, a great arm. Mike Norvell is going to get the most out of him. I agree with you. Clear to me, Mike Norvell does not trust him to use his arm downfield. No. Didn't really trust him to use his arm downfield besides foul route. They completed now routes and RPO game the entirety of the first 3 quarters. That's all.
When have you ever seen a Mike Norvell offense do that? No, regardless. Brady White was not the most talented quarterback in the country, arm talent, anything like that, but they spread the ball out. Jordan Travis, they threw the ball all over the field.
Until the fourth quarter, and it was on 2 4th downs. They didn't press the ball down the field to the middle of the field at all.
Yeah.
And that's what led to that last score to tie it at 21-21. But it took till 2 4th downs for Mike to dial anything up that he trusted DJ with. And then it was, I don't even know if he trusted him.
It just had to happen.
You had to get to a 4th down with the game on the line, and you had to trust him. You had no choice. And then I think the other thing that really just resonates for me, Mike Norvell, really good offensive mind, and I give him a whole lot of credit. That opening script should show you what you need to know. Right. Sure. He just went straight down the field, knew exactly how to exploit Georgia Tech. But after that, that's when sort of you make your money, is when you have to do that open field play calling where you don't have things scripted up. But what I notice about that team, I guess Jalen Lucas, number 13, has a little juice. I think Lawrence Toafili, their running back, a bit of juice. He had the first touchdown. But outside of that, Mike Norvell's best offenses feature explosive athletes and explosive plays.
Yeah.
They don't have anyone on the outside who is very explosive. Their idea this year going into it was Malik Benson from Alabama. And he's not like big. He's kind of fast. He's got some ability. But like at Alabama, he had 13 catches for 160 yards, I think. Something like that. And a touchdown. Not exactly a proven commodity. What worries me most about them is their trenches aren't near as good as we thought, and then they don't have the explosive playmakers that Mike's used to. I mean, when we look at Mike's best offenses, Darrell Henderson, Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson, DeMonte Coxey, Anthony Miller, Calvin Austin III, Jordan Travis, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson. He doesn't have any of those guys this year, seemingly. Now, that could change. Maybe they'll get their legs under them a little bit better when they get to the States and aren't playing in Ireland. But that was apparent to me after that first drive. It's like these guys don't really have juice.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about my next point, and you led me perfectly into it with talking about the weapons of past Mike Norvell teams. And as a program that is expected to or wants to have continued success, you have to replace that talent quickly because just in this modern day and age, even more so now with the transfer portal, you're not going to be afforded the grace to say, well, now we're rebuilding and we need a year or two. You can have a mini rebuild where, say, you won 10, 11 games the year before, you win 8 or 9. Okay, but the product's got to look similar. And Florida State, if you peel back the layers, they lost Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, the tight end, Jaheim Bell.
Yep.
On the defense, they lost Jared Verse and Braden Fiskey, who were two top level NFL draft picks, both by the Los Angeles Rams. They lost a lot of talent, and they did not do an acceptable job replacing that talent. And like you said, it's week 0. It was a trip to Ireland. It was against a very game team in Georgia Tech. Like, of course, we could just be overreacting, and this could be nothing. But all we can base it off right now is the product that we've seen on the field, and it was not good. It was nowhere near the Florida State team we saw last year. We didn't really see any shades of that, and it's got to be a little bit concerning if you're a Florida State fan, if you're interested in the Florida State program. Like, it's got to be concerning because there weren't any points last year when it looked even remotely close to this bleak.
But I want to ask you this, like, straight up, because like going into this game, I was not going to be surprised in the slightest if Georgia Tech, who was a 7-win team last year, got back to a bowl game, did the whole thing. Brent Key looks like he has that thing going in the right direction. He's a Sabanite. He was an O-line coach by trade, so his trenches are going to be good. I said, like, going into this game, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the game in the fourth quarter. So, like, that's my question. How surprised are you that this went the way it did? Because I was down on Florida State. I think they got a pity vote in the AP top 10 from last year, not getting into the college football playoff. And I think there was just more benefit of the doubt given to them after 13-0 in the regular season than ever should have been given to them. Like this, yes, it's surprising Georgia Tech won the game outright.
Correct.
I am not surprised Georgia Tech competed the way they did against this team, though, because that team is not close to what it was a year ago.
Yeah, I think if Florida State would have been properly ranked, we wouldn't be as surprised by this. Because like you said, Georgia Tech, they're not a great team, but they're solid. Haynes King has a pretty good grasp of that offense, and he's, obviously has a high caliber and was solid last year at Georgia Tech. So expecting them to compete wasn't really in question for me. I know the line was pretty far apart, but
it was like 10.5. Wasn't crazy.
Right. Well, it wasn't crazy. But when you peel back the layers, it's like this is not the same Florida State team whatsoever. I mean, I just listed off a ton of names that were all selected in the NFL draft, and most of them relatively highly. So the expectation for Florida State to be a top 10 team this year, I think, was absurd off the rip. I think the only thing other than, like you said, a pity vote that people would have expected them to be one of the upper echelon teams in the country is DJU, and thinking that, like you said, with Mike Norvell and the development and all the tools that he has, that this is finally the time that he becomes that player that he was supposed to be. Because I know you've seen this graphic a lot now. The number 1 quarterback in the class was DJU. The number 2 quarterback in that class was CJ Stroud, and their careers have panned out much, much differently. But I think he was probably the only reason for optimism, and now that is no longer there at all after that game.
Can I say this, though? I just want to get this out front, because, like, did I see some of the most ridiculous shit about DJU after that game and how trash he was. I think he's a symptom of the problem, man. And it felt like everybody was trying to make him the problem. And it's like, no, brother, like there's a lot of issues with the way that offense played and operated. Right. But obviously he's the quarterback, so he takes a lot of that. But it's just it's strange to me to see the reaction and how black and white we think it is about quarterback play. That's not how this works.
No.
You have to have receivers who can separate. You have to have a run game that can get off the ground and get moving a little bit. And he had none of those things. I honestly thought he played relatively clean ball. Like, I know that he wasn't asked to do a whole lot, but what he was asked to do, he did it pretty cleanly. Like, he wasn't awful.
I think him being a symptom of the problem is honestly a fair point, because everything around him was so bad, other than Lawrence Toafili, who really didn't have much of a chance because of the offensive line. But to transition us, Gabe, we will get to see the University of Memphis take on this team in a couple weeks. That will be interesting. That will be, the mentor and the protege once again with with Mike Norvell and Ryan Silverfield, seeing them coach against each other as head coaches for the first time. So I know we're all excited about that venture. But before we get there, Memphis has to play North Alabama in week 1 of college football, which officially starts this week. And Memphis's first depth chart was released. There were some very interesting things on here. Give me some of your highlights, some of the things that you saw or took away from the initial depth chart.
I am glad a lot of transfers won their position battles.
It's a good sign.
That is what I like. First thing, just looking at it, loved it, right? Because you see Chris Adams from Old Dominion, who was committed to Washington, a week later commits to Memphis. He's starting at left tackle.
And came in late.
And he came in late. So he must be balling. He must be playing really good ball. Keydrell Lewis came from ULM, started a bunch of games there, starting at right tackle. Trent Holler, who were like, oh, this is the center. Guess what? Starting at center after 35 starts at Marshall. Kobe Minor in the secondary. Starting at cornerback, coming over from Indiana. AJ Watts at safety from Akron. He gets the nod there. I'm just happy to see Elijah Herring at linebacker. That was obvious. Coming over
Matt Hudson at
Matt Hudson as well. But all these transfers that you're like, okay, this is a bunch of experience. You need them to make immediate impacts. Seems like they're going to have the opportunity to do that. And it seems like during fall camp, they separated themselves. And that, to me, sort of highlights how I feel about the way this depth chart shook out. There are some surprises we'll get to, but I'm glad to see the most experienced, seemingly most talented players won out and left no doubt that they are starting at their particular position.
1 second.
Whoa, 1 second.
10 of 22 start. I was counting how many transfers from this class were starting, and it is 10. 10 transfers from this class are starters. The couple that we didn't name, Javon Dennis at one defensive end spot who came over from Georgia State, and Patrick Lucas.
DJ Lucas.
Who came over from Indiana. 2 more starters, both on the defensive line that are transfers. So the trenches for Memphis, the offensive line and defensive line, very new. A lot of new faces there. Secondary, about half of them are transfers. Obviously, Mario Anderson in the backfield, him and Sutton Smith listed as co-starters, which some people thought was surprising, but we've been kind of pounding this drum the whole time.
They can play on the field at the same time. They're not the same player.
They're going to be interchangeable. They do totally different things. They're thunder and lightning kind of combo, kind of pairing back there. So that wasn't really surprising to me at all, but it's good to see those guys winning jobs. Like you said, really the only spot where you don't have any transfers that are starters is at receiver, which is not surprising because Memphis was so well adept there already, but you still got Jair Shorter and Jacoby Banks who are in the 2 deep, who were the transfer receivers from Auburn and Houston respectively. So a lot of those transfers that Memphis brought in are going to be difference makers this year. And that's just the starters. That's not the guys that are listed in the 2 deep also, because there's a handful more there. So there's going to be a lot of new faces on the field for Memphis this year, and a lot of them coming from different schools.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and be a sicko here. The other thing I noticed about this offensive line, because I am a sicko for the trenches, and I like to see what type of experience you have up front between the 5 starters that are listed. And there's no ors, by the way, which usually you'd see in week 1 against North Alabama. Like get both these guys some run to see who does better under the lights. None of that. They're like, these are our guys.
These are the starters.
We're ready to go. 99 starts between the 5 starters at the FBS level. That's damn good. That's very good to have. And, this is one of the big questions heading into this year is how is that group going to gel and come together with all these different mismatched pieces? I mean, I've heard about the depth. Talked to Tim Cramsey, the offensive coordinator. He said they have about 8 guys they feel comfortable with. And to see 5 guys up there with 99 combined starts, you should feel a lot better about maybe that question being answered. Obviously, we don't know until they actually hit the field, but it feels like that offensive line question may answer itself pretty quickly.
Yeah, and another thing about the offensive line is the size. I mean, Memphis is not known for rolling out some of the bigger offensive lines. But this one starting at, right tackle with Keydrell Lewis, 6'5", 320. Right guard, Jonah Gamble, 6'3", 305. Trent Holler, 6'2", 311. which I know some people here 6'2", and they're like, that's kind of short. That's a perfect size for a center. Xavier Hill, 6'4", 318, and the lone sub 300 player is Chris Adams at.
But he doesn't. If you've watched any of his, like you see some of the highlights he had at Old Dominion, he doesn't play like he's listed at 277. I don't know if throughout most of this year he's going to be playing at 277.
Yeah, and
that sounds like a summer weight training weight that they got when they did all this stuff. He's probably packed on a few pounds.
And that's the position on the offensive line I'm least concerned about weight is at left tackle.
I want you to move well.
Yeah.
Right. And I know if you're 277, I know you can move well. And I'll say this, like Trayvon Tate back in the day, he was not big, but he was first team all conference his last 2 years. He was 6'3", 275 most of his career.
Yeah.
Like some of these weights get exaggerated, but I do get the sense that Chris Adams is a little bigger than they're leading us to believe with that 277.
Yeah. Any other surprising thoughts from players that were listed, were not listed, or not listed as starters? We can also make a note and say Cortland Marsh, the transfer who was in the mix at safety from Samford, he is out for the year. So that's a blow to Memphis' secondary already. But anyway,
other two that I could mention are both along, sort of the defensive line. Derek Hunter not being involved in this. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's a sort of a penetrating three technique who can really make some plays in the backfield, more of a playmaking D tackle than a run stuffer like PJ Lucas is. Surprised he's not even listed. And then also Cormonte Hamilton. He'll play because they have to rotate D linemen in. You do platoon swaps most of the time, especially if you're playing somebody that runs a lot of tempo on you. But Cormonte Hamilton is listed as for a second string DN behind William Whitlow. So William Whitlow, that's the returner along the defensive line that you have to pay attention to with that starting group. But Cormonte Hamilton not being a starter, that kind of threw me off.
Strange.
He was a starter for most of last year. And he was sort of the incumbent, like this is the guy,
the returning guy
that we trust, came from Ohio State, had a good year last year. He's ready to break out. And to not see him listed as a starter, I can't make anything positive out of that. I guess if you were trying to be complete eternal optimist, which I'm not going to be, you could say, well, they're going to rotate him in anyway, so he's going to get plenty of playing time. Maybe he plays better with the second group that they roll out there. I don't know if I can make that case, though. It's just strange not to see him up there as a starter.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think one of my bigger takeaways, and this is a position group that we've talked about all offseason, and now like seeing it spelled out on paper, this linebacker core has me so excited. I mean, you just look at it, starting at the strong side linebacker is Elijah Herring. And then at the middle linebacker, you have Chandler Martin and Camelo Overton, who was the highest ranked player in the 2022 class.
Redshirt freshman, by the way.
Redshirt freshman. And then at the weak side linebacker, you have Matt Hudson and Jaden Flaker, who were both transfers in this year's class. And same thing, you want to talk about size, 6'2", 230, 6 foot 230, 6'2", 235, 6'2", 225. Like, they're
loaded at that position, man.
They're loaded. They've got size. They've got speed. They've got athletic ability. They've got guys that can play in coverage. They've got thumpers. They've got everything. This linebacker core could truly be elite this year.
With the way this depth chart was presented to us, this is such an interesting question I have, right? Because we know that I think Jordan Hankins, for the most part, is going to be multiple. In that Liberty Bowl game to sort of stop the rushing attack of Iowa State. He had some 4 down, but he had to stand up with Jalen Allen, so maybe that was a different look. But he listed 3 D-line positions, D-end, nose tackle, and another D-end. And then he has 3 linebackers and a tiger position that may be sort of a roaming box safety that Greg Rubin will play.
Right.
Like this defense, I'm curious, like as soon as they roll out against North Alabama on Saturday at 6 p.m., I want to see like the first look he throws out there. Because I thought we'd get a lot more 4 down this year, but it seems like this may be sort of a 3-down line that he's going to try to at least to start the year and go with it that direction. Well, and I guess when you have that good of linebackers and you're that deep at linebacker, you want to try to feature those guys, keep them on the field more.
Let's have a nerdy conversation to
okay. Absolutely.
Segment. You mentioned the 3-down lineman, and it, just from the depth chart, it's like a 3-3-5 stack, basically. What do you prefer in a defense? Because there are so many ways. Every defense is multiple nowadays, so I need to preface this with that. You'll see 4 down, you'll see 3 down, you'll see, 4 back.
Unbalanced looks at maybe a bear, like they may run a bear front out there. I mean, it's
Right, nickel and dime packages. You'll see a lot of different. It used to be, it was like, this is our base defense, and this is the defense that we play. Yeah. When you and I were in school, that is how
Tampa Bay Buccaneers early in the 2000s won a Super Bowl, and they ran 4 down, Tampa 2. That's what they did. They weren't doing shit else.
Yeah. So what is your preference when it comes to alignment?
Honestly, it's so dependent on personnel.
Of course. I'm just saying.
Here's what I'll say. Like, if you don't have really good pass rushers, I almost prefer that 3-3-5 look. And I think it's been adopted by a lot of different schools in the Big 12 over the years because it's really good for pass coverage because you have an extra defensive back on the field, and you could even add another one out with a different package. So I think when you don't have good pass rushers, which seemingly may be the problem with this defensive line this year, based on the way we sort of look at this depth chart and who's on the roster. I think when you don't have pass rushers, you should go to a 3-down front of some sort, and funnel a lot of the run plays directly to your second level and those linebackers, which Hankins did really well in that Liberty Bowl game.
Right.
When you have the pass rushers to go compete, you need a 4-down front. You need 2 guys in those 5 techniques, getting one-on-ones constantly, maybe scheme a one-on-one to your 3 technique, which is outside shoulder of the guard. I like that. But again, it's personnel based. I think looking at this personnel, I prefer that 3-3-5 3-down look to anything else they can run. But they will go into some 4-down. They probably have sub packages. Again, we're just sort of talking base defense, what this team may look like.
Yeah. Well, if you were a defense coordinator, what would be? I'm not take personnel.
Oh yeah. What would I recruit to run?
Yes,
I would probably run. I don't know, man. I think at the college level, I'd try to find some DNs, go to like a 4-2-5, something like that.
Me too.
And then pro level different though, right? Like NFL would be different.
I am never a fan of 3-down linemen. I just am. I never have been. It
doesn't generate pass rush like you want it to.
It doesn't generate pass rush. You're porous to run defense. I do not like 3-down linemen. I have never been a fan of 3-down linemen. I think you're opening too many gaps and there's too many holes. I don't know, but
I'll say this: like there's like the Big 12 I was talking about earlier. There's 2 schools in particular that I think have done a hell of a job with a 3-3-5, and Iowa State's one of them. Yeah. And then you look at Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy, and who's the guy? I think it's something Brian Nardo. Brian Nardo's their defensive coordinator. He's done a hell of a job running that 3-3-5 stuff. And I think when you have a more pass-happy league, it is so good to run that. But this league, this AAC, I mean, you lost some of the best passers out of it. You know what? No SMU, no Preston Stone. Chandler Rogers from North Texas is off to Cal. Like UTSA lost their quarterback.
Yeah.
Tulane lost their quarterback. Yeah. So like it's going to be an interesting case study this year to watch how this scheme may morph based on based off opponent. One thing I am positive, feel positively about with Jordan Hankins, and this was brought up to me by Jarvis Greer. Right. And he does, obviously, he's analyst work. I shouldn't have to,
you don't
go through the whole thing with Jarvo. Everybody knows Jarvo. But he made this point to me, and I like this point. He's talking about Matt Barnes, the former defensive coordinator who's off at Mississippi State, who came from Ohio State as the defensive coordinator. He said, well, the reason I'm more positive and feel better about Jordan Hankins is Matt Barnes was used to, hey, 4 or 5-star talent. Let's rotate this in. This guy doesn't work out. Let's bring in this next guy. He's used to working with talent. Jordan Hankins comes here from UT Martin, FCS schools, nothing really big. This is his biggest job ever as a defensive coordinator. And he's used to taking.
Where was he before Memphis? Was it Marshall that he came?
Either Marshall or UT Martin.
I got it. Keep talking.
But he's used to getting these 2 or 3 star guys, maybe with a little bit less talent, and still putting a good product on the field.
Right.
And I was like, that's a fair point to make. We'll know more once we actually see it in action week after week. But to be honest, I kind of have sort of fallen in love with that talking point because it does make sense. It does make a whole lot of sense. Matt Barnes was very, very trustworthy of his defensive backs when he didn't need to be. I don't know if Jordan Hankins is going to leave them out there without a life vest, if you will. I think he's going to try to protect the position groups that he doesn't think are good and feature the position groups, linebacker mostly, that he feels are going to be great.
Kenny hit us in the comments saying Cramsey was at Marshall. But guess what, Kenny? Also
Ramsey
was
was at Marshall?
Hankins. D-bag.
I don't know. Maybe Hankins. I know he was at UT Martin, defense coordinator.
It's been verified.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what he's got to say now that I've called him a D-bag. Do we have anything else? Are we ready to move on? I think we've got a really, really good hot 3 today. So if we're ready to move on, we can, because I think we have we've exhausted this point. So Kenny, I cannot wait to hear what you got to say to me on the other side after me clapping back at you. I'm excited. Can't wait. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our local D-bag, Kenny Stubblefield, for the Hot 3.
It's hard to get upset about schedules or get excited about schedules because you play 82, you play everybody in your conference 3 or 4 times, and you play everybody in the other conference twice. I mean, everybody has the same deal. You're playing the same teams. But there are quirks in the schedule that I think you can kind of question, and I have some questions on the Grizzlies schedule this year.
I always said there are 2 NBAs. There is the entertainment NBA, and then there's the basketball NBA. And we had moved into the entertainment NBA scenario. It was with Gaja. It was now you Dez is moving up, Jaren, defensive player. You're moving up into entertainment NBA. It took 1 season for us to slip back down into back into the NBA. And because of that, your schedule then reflects in a lot of ways those situations.
Tune in to the Night Court Podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Ja Morant and Zach Edey were videoed in the lab working on pick and rolls, and it got everybody hot and bothered.
Oh man, working on pick and rolls, post entry pass, lobs, follows where Ja was crashing, Edey was coming in behind him, cleaning up. It made me fired up. He just looks so fluid and so smooth next to Ja that they look like a match made in heaven for their skill sets.
It's just nice to see it because it's all theoretical. Everybody's got a hot take when the Grizzlies used the number 9 pick to draft Zach Edey, a 7'5" big man out of Purdue. This should work. This may do this. This may do that. We've just talked ourselves to death about Zach Edey and Ja Morant. So it was nice, even for a 30-second clip, just to see that they were actually working on it.
Tune in to the 2 Buck Sports Show with Rusty Witten and Drew Gann every Friday at 3 p.m. only on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. Yeah.
All right,
what up?
What happened? Was there a text exchange I missed?
A text exchange? Oh, let me
I'm
tell
talking
you
about you. You said you went back at Kenny. What'd you say to Kenny?
He called me. I was just calling him a D-bag on here.
Oh yeah, well, he is a resident D-bag.
I do want to say, I don't have anything to say other than, bye, Christian. All right, it's the Gabe Kuhn Show on the wait. There's already a Gabe Kuhn Show. It's the Gabe Kuhn Show on Bluff City Media.
Damn, you put him backstage, brother. He's a support staffer now.
That's hilarious.
Man, a support staffer. Yeah,
that's good. Good clap back, Kenny. There's nothing better you can do.
All right, y'all ready for the hot 3?
Let's do it.
Let's get to it, man. Some rumors are popping on conference realignment, man. It sounds to me like the Big 12 and Brett Yormark are saying, hey, listen, UConn, you guys are phenomenal at basketball. Why don't you come on our way? It looks like, from what I read, that Brett Yormark is trying to get UConn's basketball program to come in 27, I think.
26.
26.
Yeah.
And then their football program in 31, which means hey, y'all stay on that side.
Yeah. No. I understand that.
I kind of understand.
And that's going to be the holdup to the whole thing, is they suck at football. Nobody wants that football program. And we've talked, me and Gabe, and you as well, Kenny, like, we've talked about this ad nauseum since we started talking about conference realignment. And this is genuine as a more of a football fan than basketball fan, but someone who can separate the two. Basketball just does not move the needle. I'm sorry. It doesn't. I know we live in a basketball town. I know the University of Memphis has always been primarily referred to as a basketball school, but basketball doesn't move the needle. I am sorry. Yeah. It does not. It does not generate the money. It does not generate, the fan support. It doesn't generate a tenth as much as football does. And that's why I think so far in the voting, I think maybe 2 agreed to it, 8 were undecided, and
no, it was 6 agreed at UConn to pass this. 6 agreed to pass it, 2 said no, and 8 were undecided. And so I think they can get to the 12 they need. Yeses.
Correct. 12 is what they need for it to pass. And could it? Yeah, absolutely. And it will move relatively quickly with it being 2026 for the basketball program. But if it doesn't pass, if they don't get the 12 they need, it's going to be because their football program sucks so bad.
Now let me do this.
Come on,
brother. I agree with you. Listen, I agree with you. Their football program is trash. Now I do think that they have shown when they're in a decent situation football wise in the Big East,
they can be serviceable.
Randy Edsall had some damn good years, bro. They're in the Orange Bowl one year. Like they've shown in the past they can be okay in football.
Anybody remember Donald Brown?
And I do. Indianapolis Colts legend. Now I'm going to push back a little bit, brother, because listen,
go for it.
I agree with you. Basketball doesn't move the needle. The 2-time defending national champion basketball program, though, moves the needle. It does to a certain extent. If you're talking about brands in the Northeast that are playing college athletics, both football and basketball, that's probably the biggest brand, if not top 2, top 3. And I will say this about Brett Yormark. I think he's nuts. I think he's insane. He's trying to play Big 12 basketball in Mexico City. Right. And he's, he just does some crazy shit all the time. But can I say this? His crazy shit has worked.
It worked.
Yeah. I'm impressed with that guy, man.
Yeah.
He has said to hell with any bit of tradition, none of that. We're past that. I need to go strengthen my product. And I got to be honest, like there was talks about Gonzaga being this team. I think UConn makes a hell of a lot more sense than Gonzaga ever would.
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100% because at least there is the prospect of a potential rise in that football program, and that could give you a potential selling point or potential hope. And I also agree, yes, 2-time defending national champion, that does move the needle more than just a solid basketball program. But at the same time, how much sustained success, and I know UConn is a massive brand, but what happens if Danny Hurley ultimately does leave? What happens if they do slip?
What happens if the Lakers come back with a better offer?
But I will say this though. Here's what you can say about that. Here's what UConn fans would tell you directly to your face. We won one with Kevin Ollie. We won one with who's the guy before him? Jim Calhoun. We won one with Danny Hurley. It doesn't make a damn. We can get this thing going whenever the hell we want. Yeah. And I know there was some lean years with Danny Hurley and with Kevin Ollie because they were under those recruiting restrictions, had show causes up the their neck. I understand that, but that's what they'd say back to you is like, yeah, you can say what if Danny Hurley leaves, but we've had a run here of 3 straight coaches who may have had some lean years, but ultimately what happened? Won natties.
Yeah,
they won natties.
And that's such a that is such a fair argument to make. But say that by the time they were to join the Big 12, let's say this vote passes, and by that time, just hypothetically, Danny Hurley has decided to move on, and that basketball program goes through some lean years again, then this decision looks idiotic. Even if it does turn back around, even if eventually it does turn back around, it looks so stupid because they offer zero value at that point.
Yeah, at that point. But I think they do have a hell of a fan base for that basketball program.
They do.
They have a decent fan base for the football program. They have all they have a decent group of cities up there in the Northeast that have densely populated areas that they feel comfortable about attacking. Right. I think this actually, to me, makes a whole lot more sense. Now, here's the other question we need to have. This would get them to 17 members in football by 2031. You ain't sticking at 17, are you?
No.
Like you're rounding that up to 20, 22. You're rounding that the hell up. And where would that leave a lot of schools? Like, we'll see what happens with the ACC. Where would that leave Memphis? Like, that's the question I have, because I think that this ultimately will happen based on the reports I've been seeing. If you have 6 yeses on the first vote and 8 undecided, we're going to be able to play 6 of those people to come around and join the Big 12. Because I think, monetarily, it would make sense for them. You have bigger TV deals. You strengthen the Big 12's stronghold on college basketball. I just think for all parties involved, it makes a fair amount of sense.
Yeah,
real quick question on this. What do you think? So, if you listen to a friend of the show, Gary Parrish, had a whole spiel today talking about this whole situation, and it was really insightful because he knows Brett Yormark well. Like they have a relationship. And it's such an interesting dynamic between Brett Yormark kind of being a disruptor of the common way that commissioners have always done things, right? Like they've always thought football is the money driver. And Yormark is saying, screw the money right now. I'm trying to build up our product. And his history is basketball. He comes from historically a basketball situation. Is he gonna win on this? Is his mindset gonna win? Like, are we gonna see the Big 12 change, or does money talk the entire way through? Football rules all.
I think football will always rule all.
It will never change.
I do think that his way of thinking is he's not being dumb here. That's the way I'm going to. I think he is actually trying to be a little bit forward thinking and smart. To add a program, a blue blood like UConn to your basketball product, it means something. It doesn't mean what it would mean for football. If you added Alabama to your conference, it would mean a hell of a lot more. I get that. But adding UConn to your basketball product, you can't just chalk that up like we have in the past and say that means nothing. That means something. It does.
I don't know.
I don't disagree with it, but at the same time, it's not gonna make a conference powerhouse. And I know that we have to view conference realignment in a completely different vein now. Like typically it'd be one school moving every so often, and now we're talking about eventually probably going to super conference powers, and that's likely the road that we're headed on. But these kind of moves, at the end of the day, they're just not going to do much. You're never going to be in competition with the Big Ten. You're never going to be in competition with the SEC. It's never going to happen. You're never going to be.
That's what I'm trying to say. Here's what I'm going to ask, because I think this is important to both of y'all. I think this is an interesting conversation. The dynamic he's creating by trying to bring in a basketball power. For me, it almost feels as if he got his four corner schools. He got a good school in Utah. He brought in Colorado and Prime. He brought in all these good, these solid football schools. He's done what he can to strengthen the football product. Is this kind of like, all right, we have nothing to lose. Let's experiment with this. Let's see what happens. Can we grow our TV deals on the basketball side?
Yeah,
that's what it feels like to me, and I think it's worth it. I think it's totally worth it to try this. I think it's all. I think it's fair. Fair point. Now, all right, where real quick. I just have to do this real quick. Where's this leave Memphis? Where what do we think about Memphis? I think the best opportunity. Best opportunity, isn't it? Just like ACC doesn't lose everything. They have some open spots. Come on down. That's kind of what
it's gonna have to be.
I
Kind
know
of the
Big
ACC
12 says they're open
leftovers.
for business, but I don't know if Brett Yormark's super keen on the idea of Memphis right now.
Not
No.
sure either.
No, I don't think so either. All right, let's go to topic number 2. We've been talking about this guy for the better part of the offseason. Lots of just drama with Jerry Jones coming out and talking outside of his mouth about Ceedee Lamb and his importance to the team. I think you guys, a couple of weeks ago, I asked you the question, will Ceedee Lamb be on the field for week 1? And I think both of you guys said yes. You thought that a deal would happen. Well, a deal was completed today. Ceedee Lamb got everything he wanted, it looks like to me. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but he got a 4-year extension worth $136 million, $34 million of it guaranteed. $100 million guaranteed.
38
million
bonus.
signing bonus.
Record, baby.
deal, right?
Highest paid wide receiver in Cowboys history. Second highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Yep.
Well done, CD. Nice.
Clearly he won this, right? Like he won. He stared down Jerry Jones and won.
This is what we need to do. Christian, take it away, brother.
Yeah, take it away, Christian. What do you think?
Finally. That's all you can say is finally. This should have happened long ago, but I guess all is forgotten, all is forgiven now. He is signed before the season, got a couple weeks to reintegrate into the team, get back on the field, get into the swing of things. The only thing I hate about this is you can see in so many examples when players hold out and they wait and then they get in camp.
Soft tissue. Here it comes.
Hamstrings growing.
Hamstring.
Yeah, all those
Yeah.
things. And
God, I knew you were going here, and that's exactly what I thought. That was my first thought.
I hate stringing stuff out because there are, like I said, so many examples of it happening. It probably happens less often than it actually does. It's just the ones that stick in our head when it does happen. But as long as they don't run into any of those soft tissue injuries, then all is forgotten, all is forgiven. Who cares? He's on board. He's back with the team. No concerns. Second highest paid receiver in the league right now by average per year value. Cool. Good with me. He's back. The Cowboys do not have to worry about having a terrible offense this year because they don't have their best player.
But I'll say this to CD, get in the lab, brother. 13 days till the season. Scares the hell out of me. It scares the absolute hell out of me, brother. You haven't taken those hits. Don't know how your body's going to respond. Take some hits. Figure it the hell out because it's going to be a long, grueling season, 17-plus games. Yeah, like that's the one thing that pisses me off about the way the Cowboys handled this.
Yeah,
among Jerry Jones opening his big fat mouth every step of the way.
Yeah.
But you put it off. You bid against yourself. You watch Justin Jefferson get that deal. You watch Amon-Ra St. Brown get his deal. You watch Jalen Waddle get his deal. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, everybody get their deal. Then you pay him last. You drove up the price, and now you only have 13 days for him to get ready for the season.
Very mismanaged.
I've never understood why there's some NFL franchises that insist upon, even though they know they're going to bring the guy back, which is why Jerry Jones said there's no urgency. They know they're going to bring him back, yet they still sit on their hands, kick the can down the road. Why? What is the point?
Yeah, I don't get it.
I never get it, man. It's just you're gonna pay the guy, pay him. And when it comes to the on-field product, he accounted for. I looked it up the other day. 30% of their offensive yards, 25% of their touchdown production.
Yep.
You're telling me that there was never a chance he wasn't going to play for the Cowboys this year and he wasn't going to get this deal, but you're telling me that's worth betting on? Like it's worth leaving your season up in the balance for just to maybe drive the price down? No, it's not. It's not.
And I saw something today, and I don't know. I haven't seen that this has been confirmed or anything like that. But I saw that the deal a month ago was sitting at 4 years, $132 million.
So they added $4 million to it.
Yeah, and so you lost a month of this negotiation over $1 million a year. Like,
and I hope here's the other thing. I wonder if they're going to waive his $3 million in fines. I wonder if that was something they sat down and talked about. I hope they did. Need to waive those damn fines because honestly,
did they get like some kind of
management? This was not on CD, bro.
No, not at all.
Did they get some kind of team exception out of the deal? Like, was there anything like what did Dallas get at all for waiting so long? Did they get anything?
No, nothing at all.
No,
like And then here's my next question, because I keep, every topic we have here in the hot three, I asked about Memphis and where does the UConn thing leave them in the realignment. Where does this leave Dak Prescott? What do we think about Dak, brother? I don't know.
I mean, they got to. I mean,
they have to march to figure something out.
Their heir apparent just threw 5 picks in a preseason game.
Trey Lance is not the answer, brother. I can tell you.
I will say though,
he can run it a little bit though. He got some legs.
In all fairness, you can see what's exciting about him. Like, he does show kind of some flashes, but you can't throw 5 picks in a preseason game.
5 picks against third stringers fighting for their NFL lives.
Come on, man.
Bad.
Golly,
Trey Lance
you got a bunch of knees out there playing offensive line, brother.
Yeah.
Damn.
All right, Kenny.
So I don't know what's gonna happen with him, but they're gonna. I get the sense Dak wants to get to free agency. I think he'll get to free agency. I don't think he gives a damn, unless they pay him $60 million per. Then he'll sign it and be like, "I'm not going into free agency."
I don't think he'll go to free agency. I think they'll get a deal done.
Okay.
Just my opinion. Could be wrong.
Okay. Well, yeah, it would make no sense to sign Ceedee Lamb to that contract and not have a quarterback.
And then have a quarterback.
I'm with you there.
Get Trey Lance out there. CD's like, screw this, dude. All right, topic number 3. Our college football coach is getting soft. We got 2 examples of this, boys. We got Prime, who the press conferences over the last few weeks have just been weird, dude. Like it comes across. It comes across like he is just, and I'm going to get roasted for this, but it kind of comes across as like a desperate, like it can't be that bad in Colorado right now to where he is like calling reporters out and banning reporters from asking questions. Hey,
Sean Taylor from the Denver Post just got banned. And then last week he had a local CBS guy from the local channel, the sports reporter. He said, "I'm not answering questions from CBS." And the guy's like, dude, wait, whoa. I'm local CBS. I have nothing to do with those national guys. Not even a little bit. He said, "No, it has nothing to do with you. It's CBS. They did me wrong." It's like,
and what was it that they did? It came out that they had come out and said that he was like he was one of the worst coaches in college football or something like that. Like they came out and said they had a ranking or something about
it was David Cobb. David Cobb had him as the 2nd worst coach in the Big 12, which what do you want me like? It's not really fair. You were 4-8 last year. Show me. I'll move you up. But I don't even think he was mad about that. I talked to David, joins my show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He wasn't even mad about David's article. He was mad about something else that CBS did, and he took it out on a local reporter. It's the equivalent of ESPN National, Pete Thamel running a story about something and someone refusing to talk to me about it. Like that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Could you imagine Ryan saying, "Gabe, I'm not going to take your question"?
That is the dumbest thing. ESPN did me wrong. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, I mean, I think it honestly, like to me, it's pretty ridiculous. And I understand, like with Deion, people come at him pretty hard sometimes. I mean, he's opened himself up to it, in fairness. Like, he has put a lot of quotable stuff out there and not backed it up.
He has cameras following him and the team everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. So, not just a lunch, not just everywhere.
Yeah. So he's opened himself up to scrutiny, and he's gotten it hard at some points. Okay. But it just feels like entitlement. It just feels like I can do whatever I want, And to me, if Nick Saban did this,
oh God,
it would be like, from my perspective, I would be like, okay, greatest coach of all time. You don't want somebody asking you questions.
You've earned that.
Yeah. Deion has not.
I would be like, Nick, come on.
Nick, come on.
Yeah, you'd be like, come on, but also it's Nick Saban. Like, okay. But with Deion has not done anything, and I don't know why he has this sense that he has, because he just simply hasn't. He beat a ranked TCU team in week 1 last year. That is it.
We learned wasn't even that good.
That weren't that good. Yes. They were in the national championship the year before. The roster had been gutted from the draft. They didn't have anything left. and they beat them, and it was crazy. And it was this, this encapsulating story that invigorated college football in week 1, and then the first 4 weeks of college football were all Colorado, and then they sucked. They sucked.
Terrible.
And nobody talked about them anymore because it was just embarrassing that everybody hyped them up so much.
We were talking about, can they make the college football playoff? That was a debate topic on First Take.
And that's all he's done. That's all he's done was beat a ranked TCU team that ended up not.
No, and can I say this? I think some of the treatment he's gotten is unfair, like you already mentioned. There's been some stories that have been published by The Athletic and otherwise, CBS Sports, about players that are unhappy that left, that say, "Oh, he stopped talking to me on the way out."
Yeah, that's a wild story.
I'm like, no, every coach does that. That should not be reported just because it's Deion. But Deion is the greatest. If you get a Deion story, you make money off of that because you get click. And I get where Deion gets annoyed with that stuff. But some of these things, it's like you make millions of dollars a year to talk to the media. You have all these responsibilities. You should not be banning people from asking you questions because they are critical of a 4-8 head football coach. And the other thing that I think is embarrassing about this is Colorado themselves should be ashamed about it. They put a contract stipulation into his contract, basically saying that the only people he will talk to is, program approved media, I think was the word. That's embarrassing. Colorado should have never stood for that in the first place. In my opinion, if you're going to get banned from talking to coaches and asking questions, you have to do something way over the line. And this guy, what he did, Sean Keeler, was basically, I think he called him deposition Deion and these random BS something. He basically took little barbs at him. And that's not, that to me, as a columnist at the Denver Post, should not warrant you not to be able to go cover that damn team. I think that's foolish.
And you know what's even more funny about all this, and I haven't thought about this until right now. Guess what Deion Sanders was doing before he was coaching?
He was in media.
He was in the media.
Right.
Being critical of players and coaches. And he was one of the more harsh ones.
He was.
About his criticism of players and coaches. And now we sit here, and it just is so.
My favorite Deion moment on NFL Network, though, was when Troy Apke from Penn State ran like a 4.35.
Oh, yeah.
He's fast.
Yeah.
And I think it was Rich Eisen turned to him. He's like, "You sound surprised, Deion." He goes, "I am. Why are you?"
Yeah.
He's like, "You know why." And this guy's white, Troy Apke.
Yeah.
That cracked me up. But no, it's the role he played previous to being at Jackson State and then at Colorado. But the other, did you
hold
see
on. Okay,
I'll get to it.
So you said
this one's worse to me because I expect this from Deion. I do.
So you said, Christian said, if Nick Saban had done it, then we'd go, okay, maybe. There is a coach that has 170 wins in college football, and just this week has decided he will no longer take live callers on his show. Dabo Swinney at Clemson has said, basically because of a phone call received last year where
Tyler from Spartanburg,
never questioned, why are we paying you $11 million a year for 4 wins? So now Dabo's saying, okay, cool. I will not take fan questions anymore, live questions during my.
They do emails.
You have to email them for approval before I'll take the questions. Is this as trash as it sounds?
Bro, that's so soft. That is so unreasonably soft. Charmin soft. Get over yourself. Tyler from Spartanburg really broke your spirit bad.
That's the thing. If it was someone that mattered, okay. But it's just a random fan. Who cares what he says?
Shit, man. Good God. It does show you, though, with all the decline of his program, he is self-conscious about it.
Oh, yeah.
He puts on a brave face. He's self-conscious about this, no doubt.
Yeah,
Tyler from Spartanburg broke his damn spirit, brother.
Yeah, and that's what's wild about it. If it was, like I said, if it was someone that what they said carried weight and carried merit and meant something, maybe we can have a conversation. But the fact that it was just a rando just a random guy, fan, calling in, talking crap about him, and that hurt his feelings bad enough to where he was like, nope, not doing it anymore. We're vetting these now.
What's
pretty
great
hilarious.
about it, though, is like, I love the names of these people that call in, man. We
Oh,
do
yeah.
phone calls over at 92.9. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like Jimmy from Tennessee, Jimmy from Ripleyville.
Yeah.
You're on the line with Coach Heupel. Like, it's just Tyler from freaking Spartanburg is the reason that this has gone this way. And honestly, like, you could honestly hear, if you go back and listen to that whole phone call, he went for 5.5 minutes on this tirade. Tyler, you're part of the problem. You could hear his spirit being broken in that moment.
100%.
It's like, good God, Dabo, let it go. It's okay.
Yeah.
Stop talking after 2 minutes. Check yourself after 2 minutes. This guy probably works with his hands every day. He's probably out, building roofs. Like, just let it freaking go.
Let it go.
Not a big deal.
It's okay.
Guy
All right,
works
boys.
for a union, makes $25 an hour. Just let it be.
Yep, couldn't agree more. All right, boys. Well, let's wrap this one up. We appreciate you guys for joining us this week. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. If you're listening, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can do all the same things.
Real quick
there.
on that, Christian.
Yep.
Bluff City Media Podcast Network on all of your wherever you download your audio podcasts. We are now pushing all of our podcasts over to one feed. We are on the Believe Network now. All of our podcasts are on the Believe Network. You can sign up. You can get all of them under one podcast feed. Anthony Sain Show, Tigers Untapped, On the Bluff, No Bluffing. Everything that comes out from Bluff City Media is on this one podcast feed. It'll be in the link in the description below.
All right. Thanks, Kenny. You can also head over to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out all the articles, videos, and podcasts there as well. Once again, we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.